What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Welcome to the Huddle, hosted by Faith Family Focus and E360 TV. Thank you for hanging in with us. We had technical difficulties per usual with our platform StreamYard, but welcome to the Huddle. We're excited to see you guys. This is our sixth episode. How lucky are we that we continue to keep going? Welcome to the Huddle, though. Every Wednesday, we leave our regular lives to enter the Huddle, a space known for challenging and navigating the adversity of life and what it throws at us. Stories here are built within this Huddle. We have some awesome guests that have shared their stories, from Ashley Nicole Moss, Nolan Smith, to Lene Belton, when we talked about mental health awareness. And even last week, which might have been one of my favorite shows so far, with George Stanton Magic, a wonderful magician out of Detroit, but he's located in Chicago as of right now. And he was able to share his story with us, but also perform a little bit and leave two of our special assistants speechless and a little stumped. If you didn't see it, you can always scroll down on our Facebook and check it out, or you can go to E360 TV and type in The Huddle, and it has every single episode that we have been blessed enough to make so far, and you can check them out. They're about 55 minutes each. Again, we are here this Friday morning at 10:04 a.m. Eastern, at 9:04 a.m. Eastern. We are every Friday, and we'll be back next Friday with another amazing guest named Kirby Porter, marketing Mongol, former Hartford women's basketball, and really a wonderful mind around all the stuff that's going on in name, image, likeness. So how lucky are we with that? Good morning, Faith Family Focus. Also, good morning to my father. Nice to hear from you. If anybody knows, our neural platform is Faith Family Focus, which we started about a year and a half ago, with my father, my co-host, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals. We talk about a lot of things, from family to adversity, to our faith, to right now we're in the middle of a wonderful series talking about mental strength and building, the habits and the self-discipline. And next week, we're going to talk about, your environment and your story and the people around you. So really awesome platform. If you haven't seen it, we're live there at Mondays at 9:04 a.m. Eastern, 9:04 a.m. Central, 10:04 a.m. Eastern. And Wednesdays, we did a wonderful rerun from our first season as we continue on through season 2. But in case you guys missed it and missed last show, we did have a special guest help us with George. Not just my father, but Shane Southwell, my boyfriend. He lives with me. So he was able to help us and join with us and be a wonderful personality to go with, George's wonderful gift. And I think George enjoyed it. Our guests enjoyed it. Our viewers enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were a little freaked out because, he made it look like magic. But we bring up Shane because Shane will be joining us today as our 6th episode's guest of the Huddle. Shane is a native of Harlem, New York. Just ask him. He's a 4-year standout for the Kansas State Wildcats from 2010 to 2014, where he advanced to the NCAA tournament each year. I like to say he kind of has the golden touch when it comes around basketball in the tournament and the postseason. We talk about NCAA. He's finished his career with 92 wins, ties him 9th in all-time in school history, which he's one of 8 Wildcats to advance the NCAA tournament all 4 seasons. I'm probably throwing stats at him he didn't even know, which is funny. Yeah, see, he's in the background chuckling. He was the 2013 honorable mention All Big 12 selection, 26 and 33 games for the Big 12 champion season. He finished his career ranking in top 10 in 3 categories, which is pretty impressive as well. So we've been blessed to have a lot of great assistant coaches join us, and within my circle. And we had Nolan Smith 2 to 3 shows ago, and I think that Shane is a great following act for having Nolan on episode 2, because they have similar stories in a way, but also they are the youth of tomorrow of what college basketball looks like, and they add diversity to a much, I want to say, non-diverse career for years. And so we're lovingly seeing the future of college basketball with, these 2 guests that we had, as in Shane Southwell and Nolan Smith. So we'll have Shane here on a second as we give you guys kind of a rundown on his story and his wonderful career into how he got to becoming assistant coach as he enters his 2nd season with the Kansas State Wildcats. And we'll see you guys all in a quick second with Shane, where he can really share his story and get in the huddle with us. Good morning, Shane.
Good morning, love. I'm so excited to be on the show right now. Honestly, you gave me a special introduction. I really appreciate that. But to be honest, I probably should have been the first guest that you had on the huddle. So we'll talk about that at another time, and another junction. But I'm really excited to be on the show and follow up some great people that you had thus far.
Thank you. And like usual, smart. But I appreciate you for joining us for sure. I did hype you up, and I didn't even go into. We had like 6 more paragraphs of biography of Shane Southwell's life. So I'm glad we didn't get into that because we would have been here all day because you've won at every level. So let's dive into the first question. Of course, what's on your feet today? What's your shoes? What have you been wearing? I know you just came off recruiting. What is it?
Well, yesterday I was easy in the recruiting in terms of my feet wear, streetwear, shoe wear. Yesterday recruiting, I just wore the white and purple fours. Nothing too flashy. It just usually when we talk about going on recruiting trips or even on visits, when we host visits, I like to stand out with my shoes. I know student athletes and prospective prospects, they like to see that. I remember I loved to see that not too long ago. Guys have nice sneakers on and things of that nature. It just makes you feel there's a little bit of a connection that can happen between a student athlete and their coach.
Right. Would you say Kansas State has the best shoe game?
I would say because of me, we're definitely up there. When you go on the road, you'll see some guys with some really high end shoes. Christopher Lowry, my associate head coach, his footwear is always amazing. Actually, it's right there with mine. And because he's an OG, he might got me, to be honest with you, because he got like some shoes that came out in the '90s that he haven't even opened yet because he's just an OG, especially in the footwear department. But I would say we definitely in the top 5. Duke does a great job. They promote it. They do a great job. Memphis staff. I would say also when they're on the road, Texas staff when on the road, they look sharp in terms of their footwear. But me and Christopher Lowry is a tough combination to beat when it comes to the shoe game.
Do y'all keep Bruce Weber sharp, or you just let him rock?
No, we definitely let Bruce beat Bruce. Coach Weber is a guy that he's stuck in his ways, which has been successful ways for him. He'll spend his money on a lot of other things, but not shoes. So I'm proud to know that he stay the same and don't try to change the mold or change who he is, or try to wear some Jordans and stuff like that. Because I don't even know if his feet will comfortably fit and go into someone, but I hope that doesn't get to him.
Well, that's very nice of you. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about your story from Harlem, New York. Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, for me, when we start talking about, for me, I was raised by all women. I call them like my Trinity, my Holy Spirit, my father and Jesus Christ, my mom, Susan Southwell, my grandmother, Helen Redmond, starts with her, the foundation. And then my sister, Simone Southwell, my oldest sister. Those 3 gave me a really strong foundation, especially my grandmother. My mother did an amazing job being a single mom. My sister also has a beautiful picture of them. But my sister also did a great job of being like a role model for me. My mom always used my sister as a measuring stick, especially in the academic standpoint and in the classroom, and also in the behavioral standpoint. Like she always say, Simone, I never had to go to meet the principal with Simone, but with you, I always got to meet the principal. I always got to meet teachers. Simone didn't give her those troubles or those headaches. But my grandmother taught me a lot about life, about self-thought, self-care, and self-love. And those conversations, she passed away some years back, but those conversations still run through my head when I was 4 or 5 years old. And she grilling me as if I was a college student. But it prepared me for the world that I'm in today. It prepared me for life, my social skills, and all those different things. And obviously my mom is my mom. She's a special, you know my mom, she's a special woman. I think she did something that really helped me with the ability to connect with people and to care for people. My mom If you don't know my mom, she does a really good job. She's the CEO of Harlem Honors, which is an award show which she essentially just honors people that she felt has done great for our town of Harlem or the city of New York. And I get that spirit from her, the aspect of caring and always being connected to others. So I get a little bit of everything from my three women, my mother, my grandmother, and Simone, my sister.
So you talk highly of, obviously, your women. I know them. Very wonderful family, and it makes a lot of sense, how you turned out the way you are. As such a great person. As you enter the room, you make everybody feel like they're just as important. And I say that to you all the time because your mom has the same energy and Simone has the same energy. Do you think that because you're from Harlem and maybe a lot of people don't get the background of Harlem, and I'm going to let you hype up where you're from now, what is it about Harlem that you think molded you and maybe influenced who you are today?
First of all, us Harlemites, we don't call it Harlem, New York. It's kind of disrespectful, to be honest with you. We've done so much for this country. It's Harlem, USA. We're special like that. But all jokes aside, Harlem has so much history from the Harlem Renaissance. We think about some great writers and poets and musicians. Then you think about, from the athletic side, you think about boxers, basketball players, so many basketball coaches, so many athletes. And then you think about another side of Harlem, which is you could say street, but culture, which is really, really important. And I think Harlem is the heartbeat of America's culture, especially African-American culture or Black culture. Harlem is the heartbeat of that. There's no other place in the world like Harlem. Harlem is less than a 10-mile radius, east and west. And you think of the likes of people that have come out of Harlem, people like the great Malcolm X talked about going to Harlem to study, to learn about true African-American and true Black culture and history. He used words in his memoirs and his biographies of using the word study. And that shows you how special Harlem is to America. When a guy to his stature talks about visiting a place and not even leaving after he visits, and he used the word study to brand that culture and those different things. So Harlem is a special place. I think it has a lot to do with my strength, my inner strength, the way I carry myself, my inner pride. I think it also, we talk about culture, your footwear. You have to be fresh in Harlem. In some form of fashion, even if you're not middle class or high class. Even guys in low class, they make their way of being flashy, but more than anything, being you. And that's really, really important in Harlem, is being you and being true to who you are. So Harlem is a special place, especially when it comes to culture.
Is it the same way now?
Not the same. I think obviously, COVID took a toll on the whole country and the whole world, obviously, but in particularly New York City. And then when you talk about New York City, you think Harlem, New York, Manhattan, New York. So it's not the same. It'll get back for sure, and I have all the faith in the world it'll get back. But Harlem is going to be Harlem. Harlem is always going to have that culture, that stamp that our people just need that energy to come.
If you could sum up Harlem in 3 words, what would it be?
In 3 words, that's tough. I can use one word. If you may, I'll use one word. And I got this from. I was able to meet at Kansas State University. We were able to meet as a staff and as a team, as a basketball program. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a Harlemite. And he was born in Harlem, not too far from where I was born and raised. And the first thing I asked him was, just tell me your experience and how it was growing up in Harlem. And he just smiled from ear to ear and was just like, eventful. And that's the first thing I can think of, is just eventful. Every block has an event going on, whether positive or negative. There's always something to get into. And especially when you think about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar days, that's from just not too far from the Harlem Renaissance. That's the Nicky Barnes era. That's the Frank Lucas era. Then you talk about moving towards the civil rights era, with Malcolm X and all those different people. Then moving towards the '70s with the new culture and all of the different things, and the Black Panther starting to become a thing in major cities. So for a guy like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think he hit it on the head when he said the word eventful. And that pretty much would sum up Harlem to a T as well.
Yeah, that's dope. And I would agree completely with you. I've only been, twice, and I was in New York for 2 years. And when you talk about Harlem, it's like, yeah, I know it's sad. When you talk about Harlem, it's like you walk into a different world, literally. When we talk about demographically, demographically, right? And Harlem is different now. It's different than what it once was. We have friends who live in Harlem who don't look like they live in Harlem. Yeah. But it's the beauty of, culture in New York and the Knicks, and what you guys are so proud of in New York is like overemphasized in Harlem.
Yes.
Right. And that's what I love about it. And I love it that it won't change. It just evolves. And so I'm glad. That's why I wanted to touch on it, because I think who better to talk about it than, the son of the Queen of Harlem, of course.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about why basketball, why sports, how that start, because you said you were raised by women. So how in the heck, even though I know this, but can you tell our viewers, did you come across the game of ball?
Well, basketball, when we talk about, New York and Harlem, New York, when we talk about culture, basketball is heavily involved in that culture. Every street or every block that you go by, it's going to be a park, and it's going to be a basketball court. Whether it's a regulation size, 94 feet, NBA, or if it's a small cage, half court ordeal, it's going to be a basketball court. It's going to be 2 rims, sometimes 1 rim. There's sometimes milk crates, but we're not talking about the milk crate challenge. So growing up for me, basketball was always there. My mom tells this story about how basketball found me, which is funny. I think we talked about it. As a family, we was out to eat, and I think I was 4 or 5 years of age, and we went to eat as a family. We had our dinner or lunch or whatever, and apparently I went missing for like a few hours, which is startling for a mother. So she was panicking. She was calling the police. She did everything. And then like an hour later, they found me, and I was sitting Indian style, 2 blocks down at the park that I must have saw on the way to the restaurant. And I was just watching. I don't remember this, but my mother said I was just sitting Indian style watching grown men play, like just 5-on-5. So she knew then and there she had to put me into the game. I think she knew I was going to be somewhat tall, maybe not 6'7", but she knew I was going to be, somewhat tall, because she is a taller woman as well. So that's where the start of basketball came, around 5 years old, and she brought me to Gauchos, which is a famous, New York City basketball AU program and developmental program, and a basketball gym in New York that a lot of guys got their start at. So I was able to go there at an early age of 5 and really start that love and passion. And it was special. And it was special for me. It was special for my family. Basketball has probably made me and my family a lot closer.
You talk about your grandmother's influence in your life, and you told me a story once about reading the newspaper, reading the sports column. Tell us a little bit about that and how that kind of piqued your interest in just the analytics and the logistics of basketball and all sports going on in New York.
I mean, it kind of gives me chills talking about it, because I don't talk to people a lot about my grandmother and how much she helped me. I spoke about self-thought earlier, and my first memory of reading was with my grandmother, learning how to read, and she would, I guess, right after this incident of me being lost, and I started playing basketball. Being 5 years old, 6 years old, I remember, being at my grandmother's house, and she would literally make me read the sports section, and then she would make me stand up, and then she would make me stand up, and then ask me what did I think, and then I would give her my synopsis on whether the Knicks played, the New York Knicks in 1997 played against Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and I would read the entire article at 5 or 6 years old, and she would ask me to give my opinion. And I always remember, a few times she would stump me because she would ask me my opinion, and I would basically give her a summary, and I didn't even know what the word summary meant at the time. And she would yell at me, I didn't ask for a summary, not yelling like a way where she's being mean, but she would say to me, I didn't ask for a summary, I asked for your what you think. And that stuff like that still resonates to this day. And she really started something special, honestly.
Yeah. We're lucky we like when people join us and, share their stories, because at the end of the day, sometimes. Okay. So we're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to dive into a lot of great questions. We have here one from Faith Family Focus, and we'll talk a little bit about your college career and honestly your ownership of the game.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to dive right into a great question. Spelling grammar. How were you able to navigate not having a father figure in your life? And how were you able to strive to be the outstanding young man you are today?
That's a great question. For me, I think, everybody is different. I got so much love and support from my mother, my grandmother, and my sister, that, I won't say that I didn't miss that presence of a father figure, but they really did a truly an amazing job of me never feeling not loved or not supported between my big three. And then honestly, my mom, now we're speaking to my mom and her ability to be such a social butterfly and just knowing so many different people and so many, important people, to be honest with you, impactful people. She would just make me or have relationships at an early age with some great men, great coaches, teachers, anybody that was impactful. She would literally have them meet me even outside our apartment building for 10 minutes, and they'll just talk to me, and I'm 9 years old, and I have no care in the world who this person is, and he is a congressman. And 10 years later, my mother would be like, you remember talking to this person? And I'm like, no. Or I'm like, yes, wow, that was blah, blah, blah. And just those moments, she did an amazing job of putting me in the right rooms, in the right situations, of honestly meeting some great men that had helped me and molded me into the man I am today. So that's a great question. So even still, my mother and my grandmother and my sister did an amazing job of pushing that upon me.
How do you think that impacted your mentality towards self-independence and self-love and just appreciating what you have in life?
Yeah, I mean, it did wonders. Honestly, my grandmother would tell any and anybody she was cum laude in Medgar Evers when she graduated college. That's who she was. That's who my sister is. That's who my mom is. Very, very proudful people. We just naturally have a lot of self-love, which allows us to love others around, because we just naturally have that, and we preach that. We always tell each other how good you look, how well you did, oh wow, you did this. We're proud of you. I still to this day tell my mom I'm proud of her, which is special because not a lot of sons towards their mom could have that relationship, could have that opportunity to tell their mom, I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? Or even just do it. So we a lot of kind words and self-affirmations and affirmations towards each other and our family was always shared. So that I think that really affected the self-love, the self-thought, the self-pride, all those different things, which helps us with other people.
Yeah, that's one thing our families have in common for sure. If anybody's met Schaefer Suggs, they know that affirmation is his way of parenting and his way of love. So definitely something we have in common, and it's one of the best things you can do for kids in general, but especially young men as they grow and try to figure out who they are. It's just how they can, talk positive to themselves and be proud of themselves, and then learn how to talk nicely to others in a way that makes others feel good. So let's dive a little bit into K-State. You don't have to go into why you chose K-State, but you definitely went from the Big Apple, which people don't know this is a nickname, but Manhattan, Kansas is where Kansas State is the Little Apple. What was the cultural change for you within those first couple years?
The first year, I won't say hard. It was hard, but it was definitely a culture shock. I come from an extreme. Harlem, New York is an extreme. New York City is an extreme in terms of, the busyness, the things you can get into, the people, the buildings, the way of life is an extreme. And Manhattan, Kansas is a pure college town, which is we're an extreme college town. We're really prideful about our purple, about our Kansas State. So for me, it kind of reminded me back of how prideful us New Yorkers are about New York, the Knicks and the Yankees and things of that nature. So once I got over the culture shock of the buildings and different things of that nature, it was an easy adjustment. You know what I mean? Because I felt the people matched my energy, which is about caring for others.
If you could explain the demographic and racial breakdown of Manhattan, Kansas, and why it's a little different than most Kansas places.
Yeah. It's funny. Me and Coach Weber were on a recruiting trip just now, and we got back home, unfortunately, to his wife and to you, Faith. We got back home at 1:30 a.m., and we were just talking about how rich Kansas State history is, especially on being even the state of Kansas on being on the right side of history, in terms of racially, social justice, and also just if you know about Missouri versus Kansas and those different issues, or Thurgood Marshall and Topeka, which is only 35-40 minutes away from Manhattan, Kansas. We have a great mixture of different people that people just would never know unless you come here. You have your assumptions of what Kansas is, but it's a little bit different. You'll definitely be surprised when you get here and the different people you meet, the different backgrounds. Obviously, the college helps that. But Coach Weber and I was talking about how Kansas State, early in the 50s and 40s, were one of the first, high major schools or PWIs to have, great black athletes, which was not always, accepted during those time periods. And Kansas State never, ran from that. So those moments are key to what Kansas State University is and what the state of Kansas kind of been for a long time secretly.
Yeah, and I think Brown versus Board was actually in Kansas, which, if people don't know, is the integration of schools in this country. And so if you see the demographic makeup of a lot of cities in Kansas, you see a lot of interracial couples and you see a lot of altogether people from all over.
Yeah.
We also are near Fort Riley. So you see a lot of different people, some people who are from Guam, some people from Europe. So just making sure, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, okay, we have another question. Why is it important to be able to connect with this new generation of young basketball players during your recruiting? We can segue into that for sure.
Well, for me, I mean, it's really, really, really important. The new generation is even different from, I'm only 29 years of age, and it's definitely different, even from when I was being recruited just literally 10, 11 years ago, to universities, the same universities that these kids are going to. It's a lot different from COVID, from, you know, the information we have towards mental health and injuries and injury prevention, to nutrition, you know, and then NIL is a huge thing. The ability to self-brand and self-promote, those things are different. So that's why it's really important for a guy like myself to be in these positions, because I'm a little bit more, you know, I would use the word hip on these things. On these different topics and situations that may occur for a student athlete or for a recruit that I'm able to tap on and be able to connect in a more intimate kind of relationship, because I went through recently with student athletes planning on going through in their next 4 years in their next journey.
Let's talk a little bit about, because you were at Robert Morris. For those who know that Robert Morris was in the NEC, and they're now in the Horizon.
Yes.
And Robert Morris is, what would you say that level is, mid-major?
Robert Morris University, even though we were in the NEC, which I would consider a low-level conference, Robert Morris University and Andy Toole, who I will give a shout-out to the deaf of me, he does an amazing job. It's a mid-major mid-major basketball program. Right. And it's been for a long time.
Yeah. It runs like a high tier Power 5. But I wanted to ask you about Robert Morris. So people that know, I was at LIU, Long Island University, for 2 years after I graduated from Duke. And that was in the NEC. That's actually how me and Shane met. And one of the biggest things that we talk about when we talk about that level and we talk about the development of young student athletes in general, it's very easy when we go to a Power 5 and we have the resources to provide these kids. When we talk about mental health, NIL, financial help, we talk about academic aid and pensions and helping them pay their rent in general, right? And the NEC and the mid-major level is completely different, right? It's a completely different group of kids, it's a completely different talent. The resources are subpar. Talk just a little bit about, you know, what you learned about coaching and what you learned about your level and style of coaching at that level compared to what you're learning this year.
You learn every year that you're in coaching, you learn something new. You learn a big theme and you learn small themes on the way every single year. I think the biggest thing, and it was amazing, it was special for me to have Robert Morris be my first job, because I learned from a coach who got his first opportunity really, really young, at the same age that I got my opportunity as an assistant coach. So for me, it was easy to adapt to him coaching, but on the flip side, it was definitely a learning experience for me. And I got the job, I think I was 27. Our oldest player was 23. So it was only a 4-year gap for me. You know, like you said, the student athletes are different. You know, their aspirations and goals are a lot different. In a different way, their aspirations and goals are more realistic. You know, guys on scholarship, athletes at these levels have realistic expectations of going into a 9-to-5 after. And for a basketball coach, especially a guy who played, you know, at a high level and played overseas and did a bunch of different things and started my coaching career as a grad assistant at Kansas State University, which is a high level. I'm used to all 14 scholarship athletes thinking and wanting and dreaming about going to the NBA, which, you know, we know the statistics on that. That's impossible. It's unrealistic. It's an unrealistic dream. It's an unrealistic goal. So coaching that at the Power 5 level, at the high level, is somewhat easy. You know, guys are going to go hard. You know, guys are going to be locked into the game of basketball. But at the lower level, guys are not always considering basketball as their first and main priority. They may be doing it just as an end to get their main goal, which is a degree to start their career, their 9-to-5, or their different aspects of work that might be outside of the game of basketball. So that was probably the biggest adjustment. Also with I learned a valuable lesson of never to assume as a coach that they know exactly what you know. That's why you're the coach, and that's why they're players, because they won't know exactly what you know. And that was really, really important for me to take not only at the low level, to take it towards now at the Power 5 level, because some of those guys may not know. And even if they do know, it's a perfect opportunity to get them back on the basics, because they want to because at the higher level, everybody wants to do the high level stuff and get to the NBA. So for me, it's a great opportunity to take from what I learned at Robert Morris and start small and have some basic level, thought process and coaching, which I do think helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. And you hit it right on the head when you say you have to remember that they don't know everything that you know. And that's overemphasized. That's still a Division I level, right? These kids still have talent, but likely they came from a high school where they weren't educated on this stuff. And then also the staff that maybe you came into has worked hard to kind of teach them the game of ball, but sometimes you have to pick and choose how much you teach them and how much you put into a practice, because you don't want to lose their attention span after 2 hours, right? Because they have to either go work at Chick-fil-A, which is what we had in New York. We had girls that were working at Chick-fil-A, or they, had to go to study hall. They do this. But at the end of the day, the degree is what matters. The money is what matters. Mm-hmm. So it's more about survival and your next steps at that level. And you're right. It's a lot more realistic. It's a lot more real. And I think that was beauty in itself, because you learn, like you said, it's a completely different group of kids. And you see that it is possible for the kids to have a maturity that they need, right? Where sometimes you go to the Power 5 level, they lack that moment of understanding what's waiting for them once that ball stops bouncing. So from moving to, Kansas State, you're now in your second year. You are the second or first, I don't know if it is now, youngest coach in the Big 12. Also, I don't know if you know, but you're first. Also in the A10, Conference USA, Pac-12, and a whole bunch of others. Did you know that? And so then it looks like he froze. He's going to keep going. I can hear him downstairs. So can you hear us?
Yes, we just got a connection went in and out.
Okay, you're fine. It must be the Wi-Fi. So what I want to move on to is we talked with Nolan Smith, assistant coach at Duke men's basketball. He came out and talked with us about HBCUs and what we have to do to try to create these Power 5 institution level games and programs and organizations in the HBCUs. What do you think is our job as former ball players, people in the industry, to influence and bring up HBCUs the way we want to do it?
I think we're honestly right now on the right path. Just thinking about it more, you know what I mean, and having it more on our brain and on our tip of our tongues of talking about it. I remember growing up, it never was a discussion about high-level student athletes or high-level coaches going to HBCUs. I think football, when we talk about this on the football side, they've done a great job, an amazing job. And to me, it starts with the coaches. For Deion Sanders and Eddie George and former athletes and statures of their nature to get involved and put their neck out there and really put their name and their everything into their programs. That's really important. And that was a huge step. And I think that translates on the basketball side. And even, we talk about Nolan Smith, I think of Tyler Thornton, who got a high-level athlete, a high-level prospect to go to Howard University last year or 2 years back or something to that nature. And that's really important. And how do we do it? We just got to keep talking about it, keep investing in it, obviously financially. The biggest, it's not always the talent that's the difference between HBCUs and Power 5 conferences. It's the resources. It's the money. The investment is a lot higher in the PWIs. And their alumni giving back is a lot more, significant, impactful financial donations than we receive at HBCUs. And I think that's a step. I think guys like Chris Paul is doing an amazing job when we were talking about what he's done with Lavelle Moen, and Lavelle Moen does a great job of not only winning at North Carolina Central University, but promoting it. And I think for the men's side on basketball, we need high-level coaches to start going in that way. And it will start by also playing more HBCUs or the higher level HBCUs, which sometimes some PWIs and Power 5 universities run from, to be honest with you, because it's not a win-win for them. It's a lose-lose almost. When you talk about buying games and things of that nature, which a lot of people don't understand in college basketball. So all those different things have to change. Me and you have had discussions of how TV needs to get involved. TV deals also help impact that, because high-level student athletes who are high school stars, they want to play on ESPN. They want to play on Fox Sports. So HBCUs need to start getting in those situations and getting in those talks. But those start with high-level people getting fully invested.
I agree completely. And I think a good example we can take from it is the way the WNBA moved this year.
Yep.
From the WNBA to even NCAA women's tournament, right? Working to get March Madness as branding. They can now be called March Madness as we head into this year's NCAA tournament. We look at the WNBA just had their 25th season. And one of the biggest fights for that is, at the end of the day, getting visibility for the league, getting visibility for the game. And this is similar to HBCUs, getting visibility for these athletes so that alumni watching are proud enough to put their money in not just a new auditorium, not just a new science lab, but into a new arena, right? New locker rooms, new VIP seating, right? The things that we saw at the NEC level that should definitely be at the HBCU level. I mean, I saw weight rooms at that level that I've been to Central, and Coach Mo is doing a great job there. The turnout for games always filled up, right? Whether they do double headers or not, people are in that gym to watch NCCU play, right? He did an awesome piece with Chris Paul's show. I think it's Why Not Us.
Yes.
And so it's raising awareness and putting them on TV so that people see the value in the investment. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the HBCU debate has, and as well as the women's game debate has, is that if you want to chase equality, if you want to chase equity, you have to give it a chance to grow. And I think that's one of the biggest things we talk about at the end of the day. It's TV. It's coaches who, like Deion Sanders, who have the money to come back and to invest. Because like I said, alumni are not investing in sports at HBCUs because why should they? The talent hasn't always been there. The academics has been there, right? You go to Howard U, academics has been there. And while they're in a little discretion right now with their housing, they spend money on the stuff that makes them look good. So when the alumni grow, they become politicians, they become vice presidents of the United States, they can be proud of that stuff. So why not invest in sports? Why not invest in HBCU athletics to see if it can, grow as well? Let's talk a little bit about, because we're going to dive into college sports a lot now, mental health within sports. Let's talk about how mental health was, and me and you have this conversation a lot. Mental health when you were in college and how that was perceived and the resources compared to what the guys have now.
Yeah, I mean it's night and day. Even just graduating in 2014, it's night and day in terms of the support, the different platforms. I know a guy that runs a mental wellness app for student athletes called It's the Zone. A high school teammate of mine started that app, and he got universities like the likes of Memphis basketball to sign up and buy in on that product. Speaking about mental health, but when I was playing, we had a sports psychologist to talk about different things, but it was super optional, and it was almost seen. Talk. I don't know if I went out or not. The connection went out.
You went out, but you're good. Keep going.
Okay. It now is just the support and the resource to get help, and not only to get help, to just talk to somebody is a lot more transparent than it was and clear than it was when I was playing. It just wasn't there. It wasn't talked about. Even when coaching, it was never talked about. As coaches, I think back in the days, everybody just assumed that, one way was the best way, which was, put your head down and work. And now, just through our knowledge of knowing people and being more conscious of where everybody's at mentally, coaches now have to be put on their therapist hat. And it's important when you're dealing with the super important development years in a young man's life. It's probably the last stage of them developing and changing, and your last chance of almost molding the type of person that we want to be, and the successful human that we want them to grow up to be. It's almost that last chance. So for us as coaches, we have to do a better job, and we have lately, of speaking on to mental health, and preparing our guys to be more, talkative about their issues and things of that nature.
Yeah, I agree completely. We've had a great show with Lene Belton, talking about anxiety and stuff that goes on within college sports, because it is a stressful time. It was one of the best years in 4 years of your life. Would you also remember that was one of the most tension building years, because you were held accountable every single day. We have a great question here. Do you think that young Black coaches can also continue to build their presence by bringing others with them into the power schools to make an impact into changing the culture and lens on those schools?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest key to it all. Getting guys that look like you, figures. It was important for me. I mentioned a guy named Christopher Lowry prior. The guy that recruited me to Kansas State, Delonte Hill, the Black man from the DC area, who did a great job of recruiting a bunch of athletes from inner cities, and kind of, being our rock in tough places. And it was really, really important. I think it's now we're getting to a point where we're seeing more young Black coaches as head coaches. And hopefully we can get to that point where we have a lot of those figures, because it's important. When you think about the game of basketball, especially, at least 85%, and I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing on that. But at least 85% of student athletes are African Americans that's playing basketball at the Division I level.
Right.
So if we can have 85% of our Division I men's basketball programs be Black African American coaches, I think that will go a long way. And it's now starting to get into that trend of becoming more trendy, where they're starting to catch on to how important that is for student athlete development. If we're trying to be coaches, but we need more young Black head coaches.
Yeah, and it's coming. That's another journey that we have, right? We have many different areas. And remember, a lot of people say that, why don't they just go coach at the HBCU level? Now, it has to start with these coaches go coach at the Power 5 and be able to turn around and then give to the HBCU. You got to crawl before you walk. But I think it is definitely a thing we're starting to see, is that young Black coaches are dominating on both sides, right? Women and men. Talk to us a little bit about, and this will be one of our closing questions, is Dawn Staley got paid recently, big time, 7-year contract. What is it, 23?
24, I thought, or 23 point, close to 4. 20. Yes. In South Carolina University.
Talk to us a little about your honest opinion on that, in consideration of her impact on the game.
I don't think you might be the only person to know how big of a fan I've been of Dawn Staley. Not only just, I'm old enough in a weird way, because I was always, into my grandmother. Speaking to her, she used to take me to WNBA games, religiously in the summer. At WNBA finals, I went to 2 Comets versus Liberty games. I remember that. So watching Dawn Staley as a player was very impactful. Her leadership on the court. doing an amazing job at South Carolina. She's doing an amazing job just culturally of carrying an amazing reputation of what it is to be a coach. Not just a women's coach, but what it is to be a coach. She's dressed sharp. She's very intellectual. She's a player's coach. She has a relationship with your coaches. And then clearly, obviously, she's doing something right in the X and O's department because she's winning. So she's just an amazing figure. In my honest opinion, I think they could have raised the ante on her. The years is great, 7 years. But I thought she probably could have been in the 30 million club because she is that good. She's that impactful to college basketball, to the culture of not only women's basketball, but basketball, period, and to the state of South Carolina. Yeah. She's brought a national championship to a women's basketball program that never had that. And that's really, really important when you talk about bringing in the likes of Asia Wilson and all other great All-Americans that she had in her stable in a really, really quick time too. This has been a short kind of. We're not even, remotely close to the peak of what Dawn Staley is going to do in the sport of basketball as a coach. So. As a coach.
Yeah, we lost you there for the last part, but I can completely agree. You know how I feel about Dawn Staley. I've played against South Carolina 4 times in my career. We only won once, but I know the 2 times we won. They were ranked number 1.
I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that. We didn't pull this up on YouTube. It will be pulled up on YouTube today.
We won in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Asia Wilson was going into her junior year or her senior year. They went on and won it, I think, that year. Actually, wow. So we humbled them. But when you go to that arena, 18,000, 20,000, 16,000 on a regular night playing bums, they will be in there for Dawn Staley, for that team. And it's just amazing that she's created that community around the game of women's basketball that is striving just for that level of respect and support. I'm telling you, when you build it, they will come. And she did an amazing example of that. So last question, I think this is for you. Why should anybody come to Kansas State University to play for Bruce Weber and Shane Southwell?
Oh, man, because honestly, it's not just only the fact of you're going to get developed as a basketball player. Coach Weber is one of the, legendary coaches that's still coaching to this day. Was a legendary assistant coach. Was a legendary coach at Illinois University, your home school, your home state school, and he's a legendary coach here at Kansas State. His ability to get guys who maybe it's under the radar or high-level guys and develop them to help them become pros is really special. But not only the development part of being an athlete only and a basketball player, but most importantly, the development of becoming a young man. And when you think of Bruce Weber, his greatest feat as a coach has been his ability to see his student athletes graduate consistently and then join into the coaching family or the coaching tree or the coaching industry. When you think of the likes of, Chester Frazier that's at Illinois as an assistant, Conzo Martin who's the head coach at Missouri, Brad Korn who's the head coach at SEMO, Southeast Missouri. So many others that I just can't think about off the top of the head that he's impacted, and they were his former players. So that's why it's really important. We're a family here. We don't just say that and throw that around here at Kansas State University. On a lot of our arenas and buildings, it's Bill Snyder Family Arena, family stadium actually. So family is really important to us. And there's no place in the world to play like the Octagon of Doom. It's a special place to play. At times feel like you're flowing on air.
Yeah, wonderfully done. I just want to make sure you got that piece in. We're Duke fans over here, but we very much are fans of the Wildcats, and we appreciate you for joining us today on this show. You're a second great assistant coach to join us, and you followed up really well. We appreciate you joining us, Shane, and we hope to see you again soon.
I love it.
Everyone, thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and of course, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is the Huddle presented by Faith Family Focus, and our goal is to enter this place and leave knowing we've grown within these 60 minutes. Our stories are our power, and every Friday, we hope to share some amazing guests and their journeys with you. So we'll see you guys next Friday with an awesome guest and Kirby Porter, and we hope to see you guys soon.